Literally, 吹牛. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a story. And this story is about me. And it starts 2 years after I dropped out of the University of Minnesota. I have no degree. I'm sleeping in a basement on a rented mattress. There's cigarette smoke and coughs coming from the next room. And I'm not able to find motivation on why I should continue to do what it is I'm doing. And that's delivering Chinese food for a living. Yes, I was delivering Chinese food. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, asked me a question. Why don't you get into IT? You're great with computers. You always fix the viruses on my computers. You should do it. I didn't have the confidence to do that. I didn't have the confidence to apply for a job. So she did it for me. She applied for my first job in tech, where I was making $27,000 a year, and that was in 2009. It was that one push. One push is all it took to get me into this industry where I'm standing now in Hangzhou, talking to all of you about 吹牛. It really is a series of secrets that help you to become a master of BS, that help you to become the person that you need to be really successful in technology. And the first key is that you need to realize that you need to surround yourself with excellent people. If it wasn't for my girlfriend, if it wasn't for who's now my wife, I would not be standing here today. So by surrounding yourself with the correct people, that is one of the first secrets to be able to be successful in this industry. And they will push you further than you think you can go. That job made me realize something. Who here was here last year? Who was here last year? You might have remembered I talked about xiaolongbao. Xiaolongbao is one of my favorite foods. When I got into tech, I realized that there was something that was going to be different. Because there was a period of time where I had almost no money. And I had to choose between food and medicine. And if you think about that choice for a second, do you want to eat or do you want to take the medicine the doctor is telling you to get? That changes your motivations in life. And after getting into tech, I realized that I don't have to make that choice again. I can actually begin to grow and learn and do everything I can. But there's one thing that's required. I have to work as hard as absolutely possible in order to be able to pull this off. I have to be the first one to come, the last one to leave, and I need to learn everything I can about this career in technology because I don't have a degree. How am I going to be able to go against these guys who have bachelor's and master's and PhDs and be able to do what they do? There's a saying in Chinese that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. For me, it's actually 8,000 miles because that's how long it took to get here. But it really was that single step of deciding to push myself. It may have been helped a little bit by Red Bull. If you could see, I got about 5 cans of Hongyu up there. That's what I've been drinking this entire trip because we don't actually sleep when we come to China. But that's one of the secrets that helped me a little bit. So the next step in this was, okay, great, I have a job in help desk, I'm answering the phones, I'm talking to people, and I'm helping solve their problems. Well, that's not a developer. So in 2012, I had the opportunity to interview to become a Java developer. And it wasn't because of my skill with code, it wasn't because I even knew what I was doing. There was a guy who wanted to make money off of me. He said, come work for me at the Department of Mental Health, and I'll pay you, and I get what the government pays me, and we'll both be happy. And it sounded like a good idea because it was almost double what I was making. So we practiced. We practiced every single day for a week the interview questions. What is dependency injection? What is solid design principles? All of these things that were just words to me, right? We have like the translators here, and we have people here who are new to tech. The feelings you're having listening to this is exactly what I had to do, except in an interview, right? So we practiced for a week, and somehow I learned how to BS my way through an interview and talk about something I have never done before. Never written a line of Java, but somehow I got a job as a junior Java developer. So that gets us to the next principle. Fake it till you make it. It's reality, right? Even if you don't necessarily know what you're doing, if you could talk about it, you can articulate it, and you can get people to believe in you, you can go research the rest, right? You have Baidu, you have Bing, you have GitHub, you have all these amazing speakers here. You can research what it is you need to do. Fast forward to a couple years later, and I'm working on a project where I'm sure some of you have had this happen before. We have an old jQuery application, we have an old Angular application, and Angular 2 just came out, and I want to use that because it sounds cool, right? That never happens to anyone here, right? New version of Angular comes out, you want to use it. So how do you actually get there, though, right? There's something else I wanted at my office, a couch. I don't know about you guys, but my office at work is really ugly. And I wanted to be able to sit somewhere comfy, and I wanted to be able to have people who come to pair program with me be able to sit comfortably. So who here actually pair programs? Do you guys know what pair programming is? Pair programming is where two people work on a single computer with either one monitor or two monitors or one keyboard or two keyboards. And the purpose of pair programming is that you have two brains working to solve a problem, and you don't have all the mistakes of one person missing something. You have less typos. You have the ability for someone else to do research. It's a really fun way to program. So sometimes you get a really nice setup like this, where you have everyone has dual monitors. You can do what you need to do. You have two keyboards. Sometimes you're not so lucky, and you have to share a chair with another man as you pair program. For those of you who don't know, this is actually from a Bitbucket video. If you know Bitbucket, they put together a really funny video on pair programming that I make everybody watch that I work with. But what's the point of all this? These things, this couch, the pair programming, the new version of Angular, it has nothing to do with what our business does for the company I worked at. How do I make my precious objectives matter to the people that are paying the bills? Right? They don't care that we're on the bleeding edge of technology. They don't care that I have a couch for someone to come pair program with me on. They don't care if they have jQuery or Angular or React or whatever technology it is. How do we convince them that we're not just chasing our shiny, precious toys? Right? Because when we go to our managers and we say to them, the new version of Angular has come out, they're like, that's just shiny. Why do you want to do that? What they care about a lot of times is pools of money. Right? They're worried about the business. They're worried about growing the business. They're worried about the new customers that they're trying to get. But in reality, if we can convey what we're trying to do in terms of this, the performance, you saw Jesslyn's talk earlier where she talked about the light applications by doing a bunch of amazing stuff that I don't even know how to do. But it makes your application significantly faster. Well, that's cool. But you just say, oh, it'll be faster. Your boss might not care about that. Right? Great, it's faster. What do I care? But if you can convey it to them in terms of money, then they can care, right? Then they're going to notice. So if you can change your story on what it is you're trying to do to matter to them, now you're able to BS your way to some success. But technology for the sake of technology isn't really what's important. There's a QR code here in the corner that's talking about Simon Sinek's Start with the Why. And what you need to understand is you need to understand the people that you're working with have something that motivates them. That why might be, searching for a new segment of customers. It might be more money. And you know what? To be honest, it may be technology for the sake of technology. But that's not always the case. So you need to align your objectives, the things you want to do, to their whys. You want to talk about smaller bundle sizes? Talk about faster page loads in emerging markets. Faster customer experiences. More closed deals, right? Lower bounce rates. Those are things that they're going to care about significantly more than, it's half a second faster. You want to talk about the new version of Angular? Is it going to help me develop faster? Am I going to get more features? That's what matters to them, right? They don't care if it's Angular 6 or Angular 9. That's not going to motivate them. Delivering value to the customers, that's going to motivate them. So that's how you need to do in terms of conveying your things that you want to do to their why. And a new shiny couch, that was for collaboration. We were pair programming and we were having people coming to us for help, and we wanted to be able to have them sit down, have a conversation with us, and help solve their problems. So that we conveyed to them by saying, you know what, it's going to make us happier, which makes us more productive, and it's going to help us solve other people's problems faster because they're going to come over and have a conversation. And that conversation is going to make the problem go away a lot faster than us typing a million messages on Slack or WeChat. So the next story is this application right here. This used to be 5 separate applications. It was a mess, to say the least. We had 50-something developers working on 3 different technology stacks, trying to deliver to the exact same customers. And we saw a talk that talked about micro applications and like Spot and lazy loading, and we had none of that. You would go to another application, sign in again, do the thing you want to do, come back and do it all again. So one of the things that we did is we took all those applications, we put them together, and we made a $140 million project. And I got a couch. They gave me a couch because we did exactly what the business wanted us to do. They wanted us to do something that was important for our business, so we created a product that generated $140 million in revenue, and we did it in 12 months. And it had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with the code that I was writing. It had to do with aligning what we wanted to do, and that was this one single Angular framework, one single SPA, a bunch of lazy loading, but we were able to convey it to them in a way that they understood, and that was business value, customers, and dollars. And that got me a couch. And it got them a pool of money, which is what they wanted, right? Because who's going to say no to $142 million? And it gets us to the next principle, right? So if you want to be able to BS in a way that's going to say, hey, you know what? It's not just me getting something. You get something too. You're going to get a whole lot of money, a whole lot of new customers, and a lot more opportunity because we're doing this, right? So everybody won in that situation. I got to go talk about a new product that I built. I got to talk about using Angular 8 and all these cool things. They get to go to their HR conferences and talk about this new platform that we built and attract more customers. So the next story is about this handsome guy. And for those of you who don't know, which is pretty much everybody, this is a guy named Haney Elmary. He was a developer with me at my second developer job. But what's important about this picture is, let's see if I can do this, right here. You see the pidai? I started a men's accessories company 2 years after getting into development, selling pidai in the United States. The 中国皮带, we don't have that kind of belt in the United States. So it's the belts without the holes in it. So I saw that the first time I went to the Huanggeshu Pubu. And so I bought one of the belts. I thought it was cool. So I brought it back home and we started selling them. And you're like, this is really unrelated to technology. How does this even matter? We raised $46,000 in 30 days on this crowdfunding campaign while I was learning to develop Java. Like, that's really weird. Okay, how does this relate? Has everybody seen this expression before? One of the things that you have to do anytime you start a business, anytime you try to do something, anytime you have a new proposal, start with the end in mind. What is it you want to do before you go into that conversation, before you go into that meeting? The general that prepares in the temple significantly longer is going to be more successful in battle, right? That's the loose translation of this. So if you want to start a new business, you want to start a new application, what is your end goal, right? Is your goal just to create a fancy application? Great, that's not going to get you very far. If your goal is to, start a Ben's accessories company and have it in a bunch of retailers, great. Now you have something that's specific and measurable. How do you work backwards from that? Right, so if you want to get to the new version of Angular, you want to get to using this crazy ant stuff that I saw today, work backwards from that. Start with your end goal and work backwards. So the next story, how to become a master BSer, is have your own why. For those of you who don't know, 我们有10个孩子。这个是我的男孩女孩。他叫克英。And when she was born, I was working for a company called ADP, which is a big payroll company. And the team I had there was a team of 8 people, and 5 of them were women. Which, if you look around this room, there's not a lot of women here right now. But the teams I worked on were predominantly women. And then when I went to the next company, the same thing happened. I had a team of 5, and 3 of them were women, which this is a really odd ratio that happened. And it kept happening everywhere I worked. And it was really interesting because we had a very productive team. We had none of the drama that we had with a bunch of guys who are always trying to prove who's smarter, and it just worked well. So I said, well, how can I scale that past myself? Right, so you see something good, you see something you like, but you're the only one that's causing it. How do you get that to change? So I got the idea of running an Angular conference. And the Angular conference was going to be different than any Angular conference I had seen before because I was going to have at least half the speakers be women. And that's something that had never happened before in our community. And actually, hasn't happened anywhere other than my conference. So I thought, I used to be in sales. I've done hard stuff before. That should be a fun challenge. So I started contacting all the speakers I knew. I said, hey, would you like to come speak at my conference? And 3 days later, I was at 85%. And that gets us to the next principle of go big or go home. And what I mean by this one is, I hit 85% female speakers. I was like, that was too easy. Let me make it harder. Let me make it more challenging. Let me make my dream bigger and see if I can still achieve it. So we expanded the conference to this venue, which is a little bit bigger than this one, and expanded how many speakers we had and everything. And all said and done, we ended up at 62% of our speakers were female, which was really exciting. And we had 450 people come, and that was exciting. There's one bad thing that happened, though. I lost $124,000. Go big or go home doesn't always work, right? I lost a lot of money, and that's on me, right? That's on my family now that we had to do that. But something interesting happened. The community started to change. Community started to find motivation in what it is that we had done. Right? We had become a beacon for something that nobody thought was possible. And speakers started to point back to our conference and say, hey, you only have one female speaker. How come these guys did it their first try? That scaled past me. So go big or go home had hurt me personally, but it helped the community tremendously. And that's what we were really doing it for. That was our why. So in a way, as much as it was a failure financially, it was a huge success for the community. So we decided to do it again. And to make it even more challenging, because in case you haven't noticed a trend, I like to challenge myself. We said, let's do it again without repeating a single speaker. So you think about the challenge of putting together a lineup of speakers like this, as much as I want to come back next year, it's really hard to find new speakers every single year. That's incredibly challenging, especially when the pool of female speakers in particular is really small. Second year, we actually hit 65% without repeating a single female. Right? That's exciting. That was fun for me. So make sure that you at least try to push yourself a little bit, right? Has anyone been asked this question in an interview? Which framework's better? I know we all have our answer. We're sitting in an Angular conference, right? But it's a real question. And if we think about the business owners that we're working with, they don't care which one we use. Is it going to get me my features faster? Is it going to help me find developers? Is it going to make my customers happy? That's what they're talking about. So if they ask you this question in an interview, how do you answer it? They're all good, right? So when I was asked this question at my current job, they wanted to set me up for a trap because at the company, they had been having a war inside the company between React and Angular. So the guy who was the biggest fan of React was in the interview, and the guy who was the biggest fan of Angular was in the interview. And they said, which one's better, Zach? And they looked at me. And I started in the way that nobody expected, because everybody knew that I was an Angular GDE. So they expect me to say, of course Angular's the best. But that's not what I said. I started with React is a fantastic framework. The best thing about React is you could choose every single piece of your ecosystem. You could tailor it exactly to your specific needs. And that's a good thing. The worst thing about React is you could choose every single aspect of your ecosystem and tailor it exactly to your needs. Because what that does is it means that every single developer coming into your ecosystem needs to learn how you do things. And that takes time, and that costs money. So my preference is to work with Angular because I like to focus on delivering business value rather than technology for the sake of technology. And with that answer, they saw that, okay, you're able to navigate these waters a little bit. You have the job. The next story is kind of a funny one too, because this one literally just happened. And this one's kind of interesting because sometimes when we get requirements from people, they'll say, I want a new platform. I want a new application. Our old platform just isn't cutting it. It's not making our customers happy anymore. So we want to build a new one. And if you're like most developers, you're going to say, you know what, that sounds fantastic. I hate that garbage that we built before, right? We wrote that 6 months ago. That's just garbage, right? Let's go build a new one. And you proceed to find all the latest versions of NGRX and Angular, and you decide to use some GraphQL and some Nest.js and all these other things, and you start building your new shiny platform. And we actually did this at our organization. We had 150 developers working for 2 years trying to build a new platform. And then we had to stop because we realized we were just burning money and it was never getting delivered. It never made it to production because there's always one more thing we had to do that the old platform already did. We kept finding things Like, oh, that's how that works. That's why that code is there. That's why that garbage is there. And it turned out a lot of that garbage wasn't actually garbage. So now you have to think about, is what they're asking you really what they're asking you? Right? They're saying, give me a new platform, give me a new thing. But is that really what they're telling you? In this case, what they were asking for, cloud scalability, faster delivery of features. Maybe it shouldn't crash all the time. Like, those kind of things are the things they actually wanted. Those are things we can achieve without doing a complete rewrite of this .NET monolith. Right? You can add microservices. You could put a new Angular front end in front of this application without having to rewrite the whole thing. And that's actually the approach we're going now. So rather than rewriting the whole application, we're putting a facade in front of it. We're adding some APIs to it. We're adding some caching to it, doing things that we can do, that we can control, and deliver value to the customer immediately. How many people have seen this show? 乾隆宝布. I learned Chinese because of this show. There's little phrases that I learned simply because of this, like 小蜜蜂. Perfectly valid sentence that you should say to everybody you know, right? Everybody talks about 小蜜蜂 in a daily life. But what's interesting about this show has been remade every decade, pretty much, right? There's your parents' version of this application, of this show. There's your version of this show. There's a new one that just came out with people I don't know. But everybody knows the best one has Liu Yifei. Right? Any Liu Yifei fans here? Yeah? Okay, good. I got at least one head nod. That means yes. But the lesson of this isn't necessarily like that this was a good story or a bad story. This is a great story. People are attaching themselves to this story so much that it gets remade every 10 years, and people keep showing up and watching it. They have the budget to go remake this show every decade because enough people download it, watch it, buy it, that's important. So if you think about telling your story, telling what it is that you want to do at your company, if you could get other people to tell it, other people to buy it, other people to talk about it around your company, that scales past you, doesn't it? Right? Then it becomes something that everyone is talking about, and you don't have to talk about it anymore. Right? So you get other people to believe in it, other people to tell it. So when I started talking about that platform, talk about it in a way that's exciting. Talk about a way that gets people going, right? And then they'll go share their friends. Hey, I heard we're building a new platform. We're going to be doing all these fantastic things. We're going to be, using Nest.js. It's going to be fantastic. They're telling the story now. I could just sit back and do what I do and not have to worry about it anymore. Tell a good story and it will spread. Another one of the secrets to being good at BS, right? If you want something to spread, tell it well. Covered a couple things, right? Surround yourself by some great people. Fake it till you make it. Understand your boss's why. Make sure everybody wins around you. Go big or go home. There's some risk with that one. Know your audience. Tell a great story. Know their stated goals versus their real goals. My voice is gone. We may have went to a club last night for a little bit. That was fun. There's really good clubs in Hangzhou. I found that out. But there's one more thing. I love Steve Jobs. But that's Tim Cook. Just do it. If any of this excited you, if any of this makes you want to try and push a little bit further, be a little bit more than a developer writing code, just do it. Have a conversation. Go out, figure out what your boss's why is. Figure out what your company's why is. Figure out what your personal why is. Why are you even in this room? Are you here to learn about our NGRX? Or are you here to be able to learn how to build your own company one day? And what it takes to build an application. Why are you here? Why are they here? You understand those things and you're going to be significantly more successful. And you're going to be able to go from making nothing and living in a basement and having to borrow a mattress to be speaking on a stage in a completely different country in front of people that you've never met before and enjoying your time of your life. Thank you guys very much. There's a WeChat group there too.